Uncharted 4, the final game in Naughty Dog's fantastic adventure franchise, finally released for the PS4 after numerous pushbacks, and thankfully, it's one of those games that made the wait worth it. Now, to be honest, the Uncharted franchise is one that I've always had a bit of mixed feelings about. On the one hand, I've enjoyed the stories they tell, they have some of the best in-game camera work of any game series ever, and they do an excellent job of capturing the feel of pulpy adventure they're trying to recapture from films like Indiana Jones. On the other hand, I've always felt that the actual gameplay aspect of the games was a bit lacking. Gunplay has always been very loose-feeling, stealth was never that effective, and while all the platforming is very pretty, the vast majority of it in past games boiled down to a very pretty but handheld hallway. And I gotta say, Uncharted 4 has done an excellent job of relieving a lot of those frustrations and has been a big upgrade in pretty much every major category. Now obviously, being the first game in the series to be on PS4, Thief's End is a noticeable graphical upgrade over the past games. The distant backgrounds, the ruins you'll explore, character facial movements, all of it is excellently detailed. And it helps that not only is the graphical quality good, but the game's set design in general is fantastic, with the story encompassing various countries and forgotten ruins, each with their own strong aesthetic, look, and feel, helping to keep the player's sense of adventure peaked. Now, of course, visuals alone do not make a great game, but thankfully, Uncharted 4 continues to excel at the things that made the previous game so great, in particular, the writing. The overall story of Thief's End is okay. It accomplishes the main objective of being a fun adventure with some dramatic moments, but what really carries the whole thing is character banter and dialogue. Naughty Dog continues to prove their mastery over realistic-feeling conversations that draw in players, making characters feel like real people rather than just forced movie cliches, despite the ridiculous situations they find themselves in. Thief's End also features the addition of a few occasional dialogue option moments, though they have little to no impact and are overall pretty rare, feeling as though this was a feature they originally meant to expand on more and simply left unfinished. It doesn't detract from the game at all, but they do feel oddly out of place considering how little they pop up. Now, as I said earlier, a lot of my gripes with the older games mostly come from the mediocre gameplay. Not that it was bad, just not particularly great. And while 4 still has its weak points, overall it's a major upgrade over what we last saw in 3. Platforming has gotten a lot better. While a lot of it is still very linear, more parts of the game embrace multiple pathways and options, making locales feel a lot more realistic and immersive. Though of course there's still tons of conveniently falling pillars or random boxes on wheels, but hey, that adds to the game's fun tone. Gunplay itself is still kinda weak and is definitely one of the game's lesser aspects, but the cover controls are on point, and the option of an auto-aim mode basically turns Nate into a god of death if you'd rather get through the action as fast as possible and focus on the story and exploration bits. It also helps that this time around, all of Drake's NPC allies are way smarter, actually contributing to combat, taking down enemies, providing cover fire, and can help save Drake from grappling enemies. Stealth elements also make their return and overall are a lot more viable than before. Past games it was kinda silly easy to awkwardly get caught turning every encounter into a shootout, but 4's level design and tightened up controls make it a lot more possible to take down whole groups of enemies without getting caught. 4 is also the first game in the franchise to feature fully controllable vehicle segments. The driving controls aren't the tightest, but compared to other games that tack on vehicles, it gets the job done without being a massive pain. And despite this fact, the game manages to have one of my favorite car chases I've ever played in a video game. Now, all of this put together makes your first playthrough of Uncharted 4 one of, if not the best experiences in the franchise. But what makes this even better is the post-game content. 4 brings back the post-game bonuses we had in 2 that were sorely missed in 3, rewarding players who took their time exploring and collecting the game's various treasures by letting them unlock various cheats and gameplay mods. These range from purely useful powers like summoning a gun you'd like to have or having infinite ammo, to stranger or just plain fun abilities like adding bullet time to the game, turning down gravity, or throwing a filter over the whole game that makes everything cel-shaded, 8-bit, or have it look like a rainbow vomited everywhere. While of course you could still do a second playthrough just for the sake of tackling a higher difficulty, all these goodies make playing through the game more than once a lot more appealing. Oh yeah, and there's also a multiplayer mode that is way more fun than I ever would have expected it to be. It's not exactly pro-competitive type stuff, but it's a fun, much more laid-back feeling multiplayer experience, giving players powers like summoning NPC allies or even using mystical powers. Like any multiplayer mode added onto a game that people mostly grab for single player, the online community will probably be dead within 4 or 5 months, but if you grab the game before that happens, it's definitely worth killing some time on. Overall, Uncharted 4 makes for a fantastic conclusion to the franchise, definitely a better one than 3 was, and is easily one of the best games that is exclusive to the PS4 right now. If you enjoy the past games, then you'll love this one, and if you had a lukewarm response to the older ones, this one just might change your mind.